progression, and people talk to me about that, that it was a place where rather than take care of the 30 clients that I had, I could be in a position to help a bigger segment of players. So that is a job that over the last 6 or 7 months I thought was a pretty natural progression. And then in addition to that, the athletic director job at Princeton became available, so people had started to talk to me about that job. But then also Jim approached me about an opportunity within the Knicks. And when I thought about what he wanted to try and get accomplished in terms of rebuilding the basketball organization into the best basketball organization in the NBA, I thought it was something that fit with what I would like to get accomplished. He felt that I was the kind of person, my skill set, my resume was such that I would be able to accomplish what he'd like to get accomplished within the organization. So I decided to accept the position. I'd also like to say that, since Thursday, I've spent a lot of time around a lot of familiar faces within the Knicks organization. I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with Mike Woodson. I obviously watched the team a lot last year. Was very happy to see what he was able to do with the team. So the first thing I decided to do was exercise the option on his contract. So that's something that we're really proud to announce today. In addition to that, we are fortunate within the Knicks to have a player like Carmelo Anthony on our roster. He clearly is one of those superstar players that don't come around very often. And the things that he has done to make this team successful and to represent this city is something that's very important. And so while it's premature in the process, we've made it clear that we have every intention of making Carmelo a Knick for a long time to come. That's in our plan.
All right, thank you, Steve. We're going to start with the questions and answers now. I ask that you raise your hand, wait for the microphone to come around. Please identify yourself so Steve knows who you are.
Hi, Steve. I'm Brian Mahoney from Associated Press. Could you just give a sense a little more of when these talks started and if Jim Dolan gave an indication of why he was looking to change general managers?
They started, I'm not going to go into the complete timetable, but what Jim expressed to me was that he didn't express anything about the job that Glenn had done or any problem with the job Glenn had done, but he did express that he felt that in today's environment with the NBA, with the sort of punitive nature of the tax structure and the salary cap, that he wants to have an organization that is the best that there can be in the NBA. And he felt that it was time to bring someone in that could take a look at every aspect of running a basketball business, from how you use analytics in terms of evaluating the players that you have and the players that you should have. What is the best structure in terms of creating or developing a scouting staff? What is the best way to take to prepare your players and evaluate how your players are getting better and doing everything you can to make them the best they can be, and to create an organization that allows players to perform at their best. So those are the kind of things he was looking for in terms of building a bigger organization, and he thought that I was one of the guys that would be capable of doing that.
Steve Popper from the Red Record. How active are you plan on being in player personnel, and I guess do you really have a little catch up to do there?
Well, I think we have great people on staff. I mean, I've spent time with Mark Morgenstein. John Gabriel and I have known each other for over 25 years. I think I've known Alan for a long time as a player, and I think he is an up-and-coming great basketball executive. Mark Hughes is on the staff, so I think that I will be leaning on those guys and for player personnel decisions and listening to what their recommendations are, but also figuring out what the best structure is to utilize those guys and any other people we think we need to include in the process to make the best decisions. And ultimately, Jim is the owner of the team, and as is the case in most NBA teams, the owner's involved ultimately in what you do, and that will continue to be the case.
Hey Steve, Howard back from the Bleacher Report. Obviously we're not going to be able to ask Jim Dolan this question for a while, probably. So can you give us some sense of why this change was made, why you were brought in at the time you were 5 days before training camp would open, and was there any concern on your part that this move at that position so close to the season sends kind of a message of instability or just kind of change around the version of the season?
I really can't answer the question for Jim in terms of why the timing was now. I just know when he chose to approach me. But one of the things about me and the way I work and the kinds of relationships I have with players and coaches is that I'm not concerned about me being in place, being a disruption to the players or the coaching staff. Everyone within the organization understands that I am going to be assessing every aspect of the team over the next 6 months or so. But I also, the way I work, I think they know that I'm going to be supportive. Mike and I have a good relationship. We talk a lot. The players will over time become very comfortable with me, so I don't think it will be a distraction.
Steve, Mark Lemon, New York Post. You've talked about the long term and your goals. What do you see with this current roster? How do you like this roster? Where do you think it fits in the Eastern Conference?
Oh, no, I think we're a team, and our goal is to win a championship this year. We feel like we need to build on the success that we had last year, and while we have long-term plans for the team, our near-term plans are the same as they've been. Our goal is to win a championship, and we think we have a good chance of doing it.
Steve, Ian Begley from ESPN.com. You say that the goal is to win the championship. You guys have a good chance to do that. I mean, I guess this is more of a question for Jim who made the decision. That's Howard. So the unanswered question here is, why would the guy who was responsible for putting together this roster that has a team in position to win a title be removed?
Well, I can't answer the question as to why Jim made the decisions. And what Glenn and I have agreed is Glenn is going to stay on as an advisor to me and help in my transition. And I think Jim's ultimate objective was to continue on the success that we've had over the last couple of years. And how do we continue to grow and how do we continue to build to make this franchise and the basketball part of this organization the best it can possibly be?
Anyone have any other questions?
Steve, I guess you obviously spent a long time in this organization and saw a lot of, I guess, turmoil towards the end. Was there any hesitation about coming back? And I guess how do you look back on your time there?
Well, I had a great 10 years here at the Garden. I think that I learned a lot. I worked with a lot of great people. I had a great experience. I've always had a great relationship with Jim. I had a great relationship with Hank Ratner, and thought that this was a place that I enjoyed. I enjoyed being around. And when they approached me about coming back, it was perfect. I mean, I sat with a number of my friends and laid the pros and cons of the 3 opportunities that I was thinking about. And all 3 of the people I talked to said, Steve, this is an opportunity for you to get as close to basketball as you can possibly be. And these are guys that played basketball with me at Princeton. For me, the way I grew up, and if you go out to Hempstead, Long Island, the football field is named after my uncle. The basketball gymnasium is named after my father. I've been going to practices with my dad since I was 5 years old and played for Pete Carril. I wanted to be closer to basketball, just didn't have the opportunity to do that in other positions. So this was something I'm really excited about and really look forward to doing.
Steve, you mentioned Carmelo right off the top, and I think everybody knows, obviously, what his contract situation is. How much of that did you and Jim Dolan talk about during this hiring process, and how much of your mission as you're coming in here, knowing that there's potentially a clock ticking toward next summer, is about trying to build this up to make sure that this is where he wants to be for the rest of his career?
I think we didn't talk specifically about Carmelo, but I think Jim and I talked a lot about making this a place that people want to come play. And that's really important to make this, to have a culture and an atmosphere around this organization with the players that we have feel like they want to play here, they can get better here, and that players that aren't here, that this is a place they want to play. So I think that's very important to what Jim sees happening in the future.
Hey Steve, Rick Ness on New York Daily News. Are you
considering bringing anyone else in to work underneath you?
I'm definitely going to take a look at the entire organization, think about where there are holes and where I need to add people. I would anticipate bringing additional people in because, you know, in my opinion, this is not an exercise in making the Knicks sort of a more efficient organization. This is allowing us to have people that we can do more of the things that matter. And however I need to structure that in a way so that we are out there doing the things that are going to make a difference and making this a great basketball organization. Jim is giving me the flexibility to do that.
Steve, Owen Young, ESPN, NewYork.com. Do you have any idea of what Carmelo is looking for as far as what he wants for his future? Also, do you feel this team is built right now is good enough to keep him around for the long term?
Well, I haven't been able to talk to Carmelo about what his expectations are in the future, but I think that he obviously loves it here. We're going to obviously do everything we can to make this a great place for him.
Steve, do you envision Allen Houston's role changing at all, expanding at all?
I don't, you know what, I'm not really sure. Alan and I have met twice about his role Thursday and Friday night. I'm meeting with the other people in the scouting part of the organization, and we're going to sort of look and see what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are and how do we move people around or leave people safe and allow us to accomplish what we think is important.
Yes, Steve, Mark Berman, your Post. What was your biggest regret or regrets your first term with the Garden?
I don't have any. It was a great run for me here. I enjoyed it, and I'm really not looking back. I'm looking forward and trying to figure out what I can do in this current capacity to make this organization as good as I possibly can.
Steve, how you doing? What can you tell us about Lamar and all these things about him playing 20 minutes, not playing back-to-back, or he had another surgery? What can you tell us about him and what you're expecting him this season?
We really are going to take it slow with Amari during training camp. Our goal is thinking about him long-term for the season and put him in a position where he's going to be as helpful to this team and productive to this team as possible. So that is going to require, especially during training camp, we're going to have to bring him along slowly.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Stay tuned for Mike Woodson.